Okay, welcome to the fourth session of Purusha Suktam, Vedic Hymns actually. We started with Purusha Suktam. And in the last class, we covered the second sloka from the Purusha Suktam. Purusha ye vedagum sarvam yadbhutam yachabhavyam utamrutatvaseshanaha yadanne natirohati. This was the second verse from the Purusha Suktam.
I have a question.
Yeah.
In the Western culture, like when we learned about Shakespeare, we talked about how there's some kind of, I forgot what it was called, but it was like each line when they're talking, like when the noble or like the rich people talk, they talk in kind of like a certain amount of syllables, so it all kind of like rhymes or sounds poetic. Does the Purusha Suktam follow anything like that? Because it seems like you pause in certain very certain places.
So if you look here, right, if you look at these annotations, they indicate the pronunciation. Purusha ye vedagum sarvam yadbhutam yachabhavyam udamrutatvaseshanaha yadanne natirohati. Actually, the pronunciation is not clearly there on this slide, but typically there will be pronunciation also, annotation for the pronunciation. Because remember, Vedangas, 5 limbs of Vedas, one of which is pronunciation. But for this class, we are not focused on pronunciation. We are more bothered about the meaning, right? So it is best if we learn all the angas of Vedas, but for this class, for the, like if we aim at perfection, even in studies, it's like that, right? If we aim at perfection, it will take a long time. It's difficult. So sometimes we have to take shortcuts. See, if you don't take shortcuts now, and if you wait for us to become perfect, then Vedas may go into oblivion. All these things people may forget about these things, right? So that's the reason why not just me, but many others are trying to bring Vedas into the public domain. So we covered, based on this sloka, remember we talked about recursion, right? So God's creation lives by consuming God's creation, right? We consume by eating
plants, which
are creations. So God in us lives by consuming the life in other entities. So it's like recursion, right? So that is the reason why we talked about recursion in programming, right? So that was the last sloka. Last sloka, we talked about how the Purusha, who is the God, is indeed all the creation in a sense, that which existed in the past, and that which will exist in the future. Everything, the whole creation is woven by the immortal essence of the great Lord, Purusha, by becoming food of the creation, by getting consumed in whose immortal essence through surrender. He transcends the gross world and becomes immortal. So he consumes himself. So God is like cycled through. So the life is cycled through, just like in recursion. So that is the nature of God. So by recycling himself in this creation, in this nature, in this universe, he is immortal. His form changes, but he does not change. So you can think of it like that also. Now you might be wondering what happens at Pralaya. What is pralaya?
Moksha?
No, pralaya is the destruction of the worlds.
Oh.
Like at the end of every avatara, there's pralaya, right?
Like at the end of Kali Yuga?
Yeah, there will be a pralaya. So what happens at the time of pralaya? So that is where the next sloka helps us understand the other nature of God.
Kali.
So this is the next sloka. Etavanasya mahima ato jayaguscha purushaha padosya visvabhutani tripadasya divi. Right, this is the third sloka. Etavanasya mahima ato jayaguscha purushaha padosya visvabhutani tripadasya divi. Right, so what is etavan? What does etavan mean?
Is Va helping in this?
Tava means or eta means whatever is seen. Etavan means whatever is seen here. Asya, etavanasya. Asya means, we covered this word many times. Tasya means your. Asya means his. So etavanasya. Etavan means all that is seen here, and asya means is his. So all that is seen here is his mahima. Sorry, what is that, Aditi?
So
You are
whatever
saying-
you see is made by him.
Yeah. All that is seen here is his mahima. Mahima means?
Isn't Mahima again?
Mahima means greatness.
Oh, like Maha.
Oh,
Yeah, mahima, maha. So mahima is greatness.
Is
So
his-
all that is seen here is his greatness. Ato or ata means and then. It's like what do you call it? It's like
After?
yeah, something like after.
Okay.
So yeah, after this kind of thing. Ato means after this. Ato jaya guscha. Jaya means, what is jaya?
Jaya means
Means
victory.
Yeah, jaya means
Victor?
victory
Victorious.
or greatness or victory or things like that. Ato jaya guscha. Cha means
Where's Chuck?
And or like
yeah, and
Yeah.
Purusha means God. Ato jaya guscha purusha.
what
So
does Gush mean?
guscha is just like pronunciation. It's just pronunciation. There's nothing, there's no meaning to it.
So
After
that-
victory and God.
After
So-
that,
So what we see here is his greatness. And then what is beyond that is also his greatness.
victory and his godliness.
Ato jaya guscha purusha. So what we see beyond this world is also his greatness. So that's what it means. Vishwa bhutani. Vishwa,
Eternal or universal?
yeah, universal.
And Bhutani means the sky or the earth.
No, bhuta, pancha bhutamulu. Bhuta means
Elements?
yeah, living creatures basically.
So the earth.
Yeah. So all that was created in this world. That's what it means. Vishwa bhutani means all the bhutas, all the living creatures in this world.
What does Pato?
Pado means what? Pado.
Is it like Pada?
Yeah.
So feet.
Pada, yeah, feet. What is the other meaning of that?
Lotus?
Pradama Padamu. Did you ever hear that word? Pada means part. So, Padosya means it's just one part of him. Asya means that which belongs to him. His, yeah. So Padosya means it is just one part of him. Padosya Vishwa Bhutani Tripada means three means what?
Parts.
Three, yeah.
Padas.
Padas means parts. So three parts. Tripadasyam Asyam. So Asyam, you know, he is again. Amritam,
Or immortality.
immortality. Right. Divi.
Brightness.
No,
Light.
Divi in Sanskrit, in Indian languages means heaven.
Oh.
There are many songs based on this word, Divi. So what does that mean? Tripadasya Amrit. Tripada, Tripada Asya Amritam Divi. What does it tell you?
The three parts of him
Yes.
lead to immortality and heaven.
Right. Three parts of him are immortal in the heaven. In the immortal heaven, rather.
Do three parts mean like Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara?
No.
Or the
Or the three
lords.
worlds?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're coming to the point actually. So this is actually detailed in the next verse also. Next sloka is a continuation of this sloka. But you're right, you're almost in the right direction. So what it means is one part, Padosya Vishwabhutani. So one part is in this Vishwa, means in this world, controlling the bhutas. All the bhutas means living creatures in this world are God. So that is just one part of God. The remaining three parts, the three other parts of God, which are in the immortal heaven.
So
Immortal heaven.
So one for the underworld, one for the heaven.
Yeah, good points. I'm coming to that. So just hold on to that thought, but you're in the right direction. You're thinking in the right direction. So this, what it says, the sloka means the Purusha is greater than all the greatness which can be expressed in words. Again, this is just a, what do you call this, a simile kind of thing. It's not the exact meaning, but yeah, you can conclude that the Purusha is greater than all the greatness which can be expressed in words in this world. And his one part has become all these visible words, and his three parts rest in the immortal world of the transcendence. So transcendence is like the heaven, Swarga. It's not yet Swarga. I'll explain it in a little more detail, but it's transcending. Transcending means what? Trans means transport, transfer.
To move.
Yeah, to change, from one to another. So transcendence. World of the transcendence means
To like change or adapt.
yeah, going from one world to another world. So transcendence.
Like
So
traveling.
they are traveling.
Is it like how when people talk about angels, they say they transcended from heaven?
Right. And our belief, and many other cultures also believe, that when people die, they transcend to an immortal world, which
If
is
they're
called
good.
the heaven. Swarga, yeah, typically if they're good. So anyway, let us look at it in a little more detail. Of course, the next sloka also we are going to cover this in detail, but so let us, there's a deeper meaning to this, right? I mean, all this sounds easy and simple, but there is a deeper meaning, or sometimes even it may not even make sense to some people. Like, why would God have one part here and the remaining part somewhere else? And so it does not make sense to. That is the reason why Vedas are not taught to everyone, because people who do not understand can easily misinterpret it and cause a lot of harm. So we have to understand it in a very deeper level, as deep as possible. And this sloka is all about that, actually. The sloka itself is about the deep thought embedded in our culture, in the Sanatana Dharma. So let us look at it this way. In Bhagavad Gita, did we cover the sloka where Lord Krishna says that he is like the father of the universe and the nature is the mother of the universe? Did we cover that sloka? Not yet, right? Yeah, not yet. So in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says that he is like the father of this whole creation and nature is the mother of the creation. So this body, the matter around us is all part of nature. And what gives the nature life? So this body is there, and this trees are there, and all that is there. But what is it that is making me, for instance, talk, or making you sit here and listen to this? What is it?
Ourselves. Ourselves and parents and people that tell us to do.
Okay, let me ask you in a different way. So you're seeing that fan, right? The fan has blades. A fan has a dome. It's called dome. What do you call it? A dome.
Part that's spinning.
Yeah, that's spinning.
That's attached to the ceiling.
And then the part that's attached to the ceiling. So that's all useless, right? Without what? What is making it rotate?
The energy, the power.
Yeah.
The energy, the power, right? Same thing here. So the matter is just useless, just like the fan is useless without the electricity or the power which is moving it, right? And giving us air, much needed air, right? The same way, this body, the trees, they are just useless without what?
Without nature.
And this is all nature. The body is nature, the trees are nature.
Without Mother Earth.
But there is something which is making them useful to each other. What is that?
Food. If they weren't food, then they weren't useful.
Okay, what is it that, if taken away from something, makes it useless?
The sun.
Okay, you take a beautiful flower.
It's beauty.
When does it become useless?
Well, it depends what you had it for in the first place. If you were having it for its beauty,
Just
then
for
when
beauty.
it loses its beauty, then it's useless.
Yeah. So what is it that you pull out from the flower to make it useless?
Life.
Life, right? Same thing with our bodies. We have seen all those WhatsApp videos and all that, right? People just were talking and in a moment they just fell down and died. So, yeah, heart attack and things like that, right? So when they die, is there any use of that Prakriti, of that nature?
No.
So the life or the soul is what gives the value of the Prakriti. Prakriti is our body, right? So it's like 0 and 1. Without a 1 beside 0, there's no value for 0, right? So Prakriti is like 0 and soul or God is like 1. So just like the fan has a body, and then the power or the electricity helps to make it useful, it is the soul or the life or the God in us which is making us useful. So Prakriti or nature is like the mother, and soul or life is the Purusha. Similarly, light bulbs, all refrigerators. Take, for instance, any electrical device. So without the electricity, they're useless. It is the electricity which makes it functional. So soul is like the electricity. It's like the power. So sometimes in the movies, they show souls as electric, what do you call that? Electric energy. Right? They just show it as energy. Like there was a movie which came out 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I think, 3 years ago. I forgot the name of that movie. A person dies, and that person becomes an invisible energy. So that energy looks like a bird. That energy can, if at all it takes a form, it takes the form of a bird.
So kind of like a ghost?
Yeah, it's a ghost. And it doesn't like cell phones. That energy doesn't like cell phones. And people who are developing these cell phones, who are promoting these cell phones and things like that. So it destroys them. So like there's a minister for telecommunications. This is an Indian movie. So suddenly this energy, invisible energy, goes and thrusts a phone into his body. He dies. So it's an interesting story. That's a different story. But what I mean to say is that is probably the reason why soul is comparable to energy or power or electricity. So that is the reason why some of the movies show the soul as energy, just energy, and tremendous energy, not just simple energy, but tremendous energy. So soul is the power, the God is the soul, and it is invisible like the electricity, right? So in Bhagavad Gita, there's another sloka. See, Bhagavad Gita gave us so much knowledge. It gave us knowledge to understand these Vedas. So otherwise, maybe we would not have fully interpreted the Vedas, right? So that is the reason why we started with Bhagavad Gita. We covered, I think, 24 slokas, right, of Bhagavad Gita, or maybe 27 slokas of Bhagavad Gita. And only then we launched into the Vedas, right? Because without understanding Bhagavad Gita, without knowing at least a little bit of it, it becomes very difficult. You might even be misled, or you may not even understand correctly, right? So in Bhagavad Gita, and in another sloka, Lord Krishna says that the world that we are seeing is run by him. We all know that, right? The world is being run by God. God decides everything, what has to happen. So, and for running this world, Lord Krishna says that he uses only a fraction of his power. See, there's so much power. Just one soul can, the students in that movie, I'm just giving you, this is all fiction movie, but I'm just giving you how our people visualize things, right, based on our culture. So all the students will be walking, and when they're walking, what do they hold in their hands?
Books, textbooks,
and
phone.
Yeah, cell phone, right? Invariably, they keep talking to their friends or texting, or they walk and do all that. So invariably, every student will be holding cell phones. And suddenly this energy comes there
Through every cell phone.
and pulls away every cell phone on the street. Everyone will be shocked. So the cell phones will be going in like a rattlesnake on the street. All the cell phones. People will be zapped. What is happening? So much power. So just one soul, just so much power. So to run billions of human beings. Just in India, there are 1.3 billion population. Just in China and India, billion, more than a billion population of human beings. And then there are trees, there's cats, dogs, there's so much life. And every living creature has God in it. It is run by God, basically, just like all electric devices are run by the electricity. All of us are run by God. Imagine the amount of power he must be having. And that is, in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says that it is just a fraction of his power. Isn't that interesting? It is just a fraction. He doesn't tell how much that fraction is. But now from this sloka, we know what that fraction is. And what is that fraction?
1/3 or 1/4.
Yeah, 1/4. Exactly.
So 1/4.
1/4.
Wow.
So just 1/4 of his power is used to run this visible world. The remaining 3/4 are in the Amritam Divi. That means immortal heaven. Right? So see how these are all related? Huh?
What does he need to do in the heaven?
Yes, we are coming to that. Good question. So first thing is, we must learn the art of distinguishing between the body and the soul, right? That's what we learned in Bhagavad Gita, the 27 slokas of Bhagavad Gita. That's what we learned, right? We need to develop that discerning power. Discerning means ability to differentiate
Between good and bad.
subtle things. Yeah, subtle things means very mild things you should be able to distinguish. See, like swan can separate milk from water. Did you ever hear that? A swan can separate milk from water.
How?
It has that power is there. So so that is the reason why we should develop that discerning power. So in Bhagavad Gita, we studied that we should be able to distinguish the body, which is Prakriti, which is part of nature. See, when the life is gone, what do we do with the body?
We just burn it or bury it. Yeah.
Yeah, we bury it, we give it back to the nature, the 5 elements of nature.
We let it disintegrate.
Yeah, we let it disintegrate. Right? Some people who are generous donate it to research. Right? So after death, the university folks will come and take away the body, and then they do experiments on the body. But eventually, they have to discard the body, right? After doing all the experiments, like you said, in 7th grade, they show dissection, right?
Yeah.
So say, instead of, you can't obviously dissect a living person, right?
Yeah.
So you can dissect a dead body.
We do dead.
So some people donate their bodies for those kind of purposes, right? But eventually, the body, after all the experiments, dissection and all that stuff, the body is given back to the nature, the 5 elements of nature: fire, earth, wind, and so on and so forth. Right? Like in some cultures, they put the dead body on a mountain. They don't leave it there. That's it. So there are different ways, but in every way, we give the body back to the nature. Once the soul is gone, once God is gone from the body is given back to the nature. So there itself, we should realize that body is not you.
It's
the soul. Yeah, it's you.
It's easy to say, but very hard to think about.
Yeah, it's very hard. Exactly. That is the importance of this sloka. We are slowly getting there. I'll tell you of how all that is related, right? So we need to be able to distinguish between what is nature and what is God, what is Prakriti and what is Purusha, right? That is very important. And we need to, from Bhagavad Gita, we know that we need to associate with Purusha or Prakriti.
Purusha?
Yeah, Purusha. We need to associate with the soul. We are not Prakriti.
Prakriti is our body.
Prakriti is our body. Right? So distinguishing between our body and our soul is something very, very important that Bhagavad Gita taught us. And just like electric devices, right? Electric bulb. What do you do with the electric bulb when it can no longer, when the current can no longer pass?
We dispose it or throw it away.
Exactly. So the moment the current cannot pass through it, when does it happen? For instance, take the filament bulb. You know how an electric bulb works, right?
Yeah.
There are two poles, and the two poles are connected by
like a loop.
Looped this thing, filament.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
called filament. So when the filament is broken, electricity can no longer pass. The connection is disconnected, cut. So
Circuit
yeah, when the
breaks.
circuit is broken, electricity cannot pass. It's dead. The bulb is dead, and we just discard it. We just give it back to the nature, recycle it. We put it in the recycle bin, green or yellow, blue, right? Blue recycle
Recycling
bin.
is blue.
Yeah, recycle is blue.
Garden weeds is green.
Yeah, garden weeds is
Black
green.
is trash.
Right. So we put it in the blue recycle bin, right? So Prakriti is just recycled. Nature is recycled. The bodies are recycled. So it is very important that we associate with the soul. So this is an important lesson we learned from Bhagavad Gita as well. Now, for that, like you said, it is very, very difficult to develop the discerning ability. Some people might think, what is this crazy people thinking? I mean, what is soul? What is body? What is they don't, some people cannot even understand this concept, let alone develop the practice.
And it's also hard because as much as you try to make your mind believe that you're not the body, you're the soul, you still feel the pain, you still move. So it's very hard to think about and admit.
Yeah, it is not easy. So to develop that discerning ability, because it's a very subtle aspect, right? So if you want to distinguish this cell phone from the other cell phone, there are two cell phones beside you. It is pretty straightforward, right?
One smaller,
one small, one big, and one on the right side, one on the left side. You can
Apple,
one's Apple, one Samsung. You can come up with so those are gross. Those differences are gross. But the difference between your body and your soul is so subtle that many people cannot even appreciate that concept. Right? Many people, so to develop that discerning ability of subtle aspects, see, how are all this invented? How is this great cell phone invented?
Trial and error?
Trial and error is one, but more importantly, it is the ability of the scientists to see the subtle aspects.
Like what will work and what won't work?
Yeah, subtle aspects which others cannot see. So in my class, at the end of my class, the last 5 to 10 minutes, what I do is I do a revision. I ask the students, what did you learn from today's class? So some students just tell the title of the Purusha Suktam. Right? They say Purusha Suktam. Okay, Aditi says on the chat window, it is not easy to understand what these techniques do. Your thoughts are like monkeys with smushed bananas. Yeah, smushed bananas, right? So yeah, that's right. Your thoughts are like monkeys. So it's very difficult to understand. Yeah, random. The thoughts are random. They keep jumping here and there like monkeys. And last class or one of the classes we compared, Lord Krishna compares the mind to a horse. You remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So with all these complexities, it is very hard to see the subtle aspects. So in my class, what I do is when they give the summary, some students say Purusha Suktam, some students say the third sloka of Purusha Suktam, the fourth, some students say, oh, we learned that Purusha's greatness is great and all that. Whatever is there on the slide, they just repeat. So I tell them, don't do that. Do not tell me anything that is mundane, that is obvious from the slides, that is obvious from what I said. Tell me subtler points, because in the quiz, every 2 weeks there is a quiz. So I tell them, in the quiz, I am going to ask you only the subtler points. I'm not going to ask you these blunt things, what you read on the slides, things like that, right? So you need to go a level deeper and try to see the aspects there. See, how was this cell phone invented? Because somebody was able to see the Wi-Fi signal that none of us can see. Can you see a Wi-Fi signal?
No.
But they could see.
I can understand.
Right? They could discern the subtle aspect of a wireless communication, wireless waves. See? So that level of subtleness you need to develop. Right? And fortunately, our culture, the Sanatana Dharma, tells you how to develop that culture, how to develop that discerning ability. So in my opinion, I mean, what I think is all these scientists, these great researchers, scientists, in their past lives, they practice Sanatana Dharma. Particularly this sloka, the essence of this sloka is what they practiced. This transcending, the transcendence to the immortal world is what they may have practiced in their past lives, several lives, not just one life, but several lives they may have practiced this. Only then they could develop that kind of a discerning ability to see what others cannot see. You have to develop that. So the ultimate discerning ability is to separate out soul from the body, right? To see, I mean, in the movies, some of the movies, they even show some weird things, like souls exchanging the bodies, right? Did you see this? Was there a movie like that?
There's not a movie, but they make a bunch of episodes like that.
Oh, there are episodes like that?
Yeah, all the time.
Like
In Indian videos or
American.
even American?
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of times.
Oh,
Yeah, they
interesting.
both
See?
touch the same like electric power current or the plug
See,
thingy at
they-
the same time, and then their souls like swap.
Or they
Oh,
have some kind of
You can
magical-
see like the white ghost thingy swap from
see,
one to
you
the
you
other.
know the concept then. See, even in American culture, it is there. They believe that, right? So, so at least they understand that concept, but it is very hard. I mean, if you understand that or if you develop the ability of really separating the soul from the body, you will never, never, never be unhappy. Why?
Because if you don't, because love is the thing that brings you sadness. If you don't, because when
Because
you
nothing
when you
matters.
love something and it goes away, that's what's gonna make you mad? If you like anything and anything happens to that, you're
Yeah.
gonna get sad.
It doesn't
All the
matter.
sorrowness.
If you get attached to something, and then
So you have to speak
when
up.
that attached to goes
Yeah, you
away
have to.
somehow, then your bubble pops. The bubble you've been blowing all along for your confidence, for your ego, all of that, it just pops.
That's right. Yeah. All that you blow all this while will pop once you learn to discern the soul from the body. Right? So it's very difficult. Only people like Buddha could do it. Right? That's why they are like Lord Rama, Lord Buddha, Lord Krishna. Only they could do it. If you do it, then you are never unhappy. See, Lord Rama, so many bad things happened to his life. He was never unhappy. So many bad people came into his life. He was never unhappy. His only support and his most important support and his brother who came along with him was killed by what is his name? Indrajit, right?
Yeah, Ravana's son.
Ravana's son.
never gave up
So
hope.
he never gave up hope and he was never sad even at that time. He only thought about the duty. How should I win the war? So that is the power. I mean, that is the nature of a person who has learned to distinguish the soul from the body. It's a very, very difficult ability. So for that, we need to get into the subtler areas of consciousness. See, when somebody pinches you, you're immediately able to make out because it is gross, right? It is a gross Prakriti, nature. And when somebody hurts you with words, some people are not able to make out that, right? Like
Sometimes.
yeah, sometimes.
Like sarcastic.
Yeah, some people, even if there are sarcastic remarks made on them, they don't understand it. They also laugh with others,
Yeah.
right? Like I had a relative. He's a very nice person at heart. Everyone would make jokes about him. He wouldn't realize. And even if he realizes, he used to take a lot of time to even understand. And so everyone would end laughing and he would start laughing then after like 1 minute or 2 minutes. He would understand only at that time. So there are people like that. So that is another level of consciousness. So you are really fortunate that your consciousness is at least able to understand the words, which are invisible again, right? The power of words, you're able to understand. So that is another level of consciousness. The gross level is like pinch. The next level is the impact of words. Of course, once you learn the impact of words, you should also learn to ignore the words, right? Because
Like
otherwise,
Buddha did.
like Buddha
Someone
did.
came to him and said a bunch of bad things.
Yeah.
He didn't take it.
Right. But he had the ability to discern the power of words. So somebody did not have to punch him in the face for him to feel bad, right? I mean, even if somebody punches in his face, he would not have felt bad. That is a different story. But the words also, he was able to.
Everybody insulted him, but he
Yeah.
didn't take it seriously.
Yeah. So there are levels of consciousness. You understand that, right? That concept. So one gross level of consciousness is totally body. Anything to body. So these people, the enjoyment is through body for them, not through thoughts, not through anything. So they are totally body people. So they like to dance. They like to everything through body. If they want to be happy, it has to be through body. If they are sad, it is through body. So
Is towards the body.
sorry. Yeah, attachment is towards the body. So they are completely oblivious. You know the meaning of oblivious, right? That means forgetful of the, ignorant of the soul. They're completely ignorant of the soul. They are totally in the body, not even mind, only body. So typically, I mean, I shouldn't be saying this, but typically, people who do manual work, the fourth division, right? In the society, there are four divisions. So the fourth division, the top division is completely mind. The second division is a little bit mind, but a lot with courage and those kind of things, the inner abilities. And the third division is,
Mind.
it is somewhat mind, but also physical. There's a lot more physical nature involved in their jobs. And the fourth level of jobs is completely manual. So like lifting the bricks, or what do you call that? Making oil in the olden days, making pots. So those are completely manual. So when you're too much involved only with the body, you will slowly become attached to the body, right? Same thing with mind. People who all the time think only thoughts can make them sad. Body cannot make them. Suppose somebody, you go and pinch them, they may not feel bad. They may have arthritis, but they may not feel that bad. But you say a word to them, they'll feel bad. They're completely mind type of people.
So
They associate with,
like glass hearts.
yeah. So there are different levels of consciousness, and this level of consciousness comes with practice, unfortunately or fortunately. So, sorry, you have to come closer. I think they are not able to hear you.
Fortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, fortunately, yeah. You can see it both ways actually. Um, so, yeah, it could be a blessing in disguise, but it could be it may not be all that good also, right? So what I mean to say is that, of course, even if you do entirely manual labor all day, you could still develop consciousness, higher conscious levels. For instance, you could continue meditating even when you're lifting bricks. Like some small children in olden days, they used to make matchsticks. Why? Why were small children used? Why were small children and women used for making matchsticks?
Because our hands are small.
Right, because their hands are nimble, they are very flexible. So even when doing such manual tasks, you can contemplate on God. Like we talked about one story, right? In Bhagavad Gita, the sloka, one of the slokas, I talked about
The sage and
the shoemaker, right?
Yeah.
Right. So the shoemaker had a better consciousness. So you can transcend your physical limitations. You're physically asked to do manual labor, even if you're asked. You can still transcend uh, that manual labor and improve your consciousness. But some people simply don't do it. Why don't they do it? Because they are lazy, or because they don't know. Either they are ignorant, they are lazy. There are many reasons. So such people, the consciousness is very gross. It's all through body. Pain or pleasure has to be through body, right? Like you see in some slums, particularly, not all slums. Some slums, there are really good people in the slums also, but they talk really roughly, and still they are not hurt. because your consciousness level is like that. So we have to get into subtler levels of consciousness. Subtler means mild. Invisible things are really mild, right? I mean, we cannot see electricity,
You
right?
can't tell that they're there.
Yeah. So to get into those subtler, milder levels of consciousness, one way is jnana, right? But in Bhagavad Gita, did we come across that sloka? Meditation, knowledge. There's a hierarchy of meditation, knowledge. Lord Krishna says that meditation is the best way. We didn't cover that sloka, right? We are going to cover that sloka. So meditation is the best way. So these are all paths to transcend. So this transcendence in the slide, this transcendence will occur when we practice by taking small steps. So one small step is knowledge, thoughts, learning. So when you practice that, your mind will become more, you'll give lesser and lesser importance to body and more importance to mind. So your happiness has to, even according to Maslow's triangle, there's something called Maslow's triangle. You know that? The Maslow's triangle of needs. So, so the basic needs scattered to the body and the higher needs scattered to the mind. So,
Like food, water.
yeah, those are the basic needs at the bottom of the triangle, Maslow's triangle. I can show you.
And then memory and stuff at the top.
Yeah. So Maslow's triangle. See, this is the Maslow's triangle. Like this one.
Transcendent.
Oh, it says transcendence. See, transcendence. See, even foreign cultures use the same word: transcendence, self-actualization, aesthetic needs, cognitive needs,
What are
esteem
cognitive
needs.
needs?
Cognitive is to do with the mind. Esteem needs this is to do with the ego. And belongingness and love related needs. This is more to do with your mind. Safety needs is physical. Physiological needs are also physical.
They're exactly the one.
Right? So these are the layers. Actually, this is called needs, the triangle of needs. But we have a similar concept which was invented thousands of years before this was invented. And that is what this sloka is referring to, actually. So this transcendence is used in this sloka, right? The sloka that we are reading. And this sloka was discovered or given to us
Dwapara Yuga.
long back, even before Dwapara Yuga.
Oh.
Right? So you understand the conscious levels of consciousness, right? Actually, these are levels of consciousness. So you start with your body needs, then grow up into your mental needs, ego needs, then the intelligence needs, then so things like that.
What does aesthetic mean? Doesn't aesthetic mean like sentimental?
Aesthetic means beauty. So beauty related needs. So these are all called growth needs. These are deficiency needs. If you lack something, you will want these ones. But once you have everything, your needs should grow into this plane. There should be more cognitive, aesthetic, and self-actualization. So this is what is called transcendence. Is referred to as transcendence in this sloka. Actually, this sloka is much more ancient. So there are levels of consciousness, and to go through the levels of consciousness, there is what is called as meditation. So you go to those higher levels of consciousness by practicing meditation. And one of the mantra is like mantra. We talked about it last class, right?
Mind.
One that saves your mind. Tra means save. Man means mind. Mantra is one that saves your mind. So Gayatri Mantra is one of the very powerful mantras. Om Bhur Bhuvat Swa. Yeah, so it is a very powerful mantra. That is the reason why it's not typically said aloud, because there are evil souls in the atmosphere. That's what is the belief. We don't want them to get this mantra. That's what they say. So in this Gayatri Mantra, you meditate upon what does Gayatri Mantra say? Okay, we'll stop here because I think we are on top of the hour. We'll stop here and we talk about Gayatri Mantra in the next session. So any questions so far? So the important takeaway is that this whole learning, this whole ideas is for us to develop the nature of discerning subtler aspects.
Okay.
Right? So that is the most important takeaway. Eventually, once we develop that discerning ability, then we will associate ourselves only with the soul. We will no longer be associated with the body. Right? We will realize body as just one tool, like this laptop, like this cell phone. It is just another tool for us. To develop that, it takes a lot of time and effort, meditative effort. And Gayatri Mantra is one of the means for that. So we'll talk about what this Gayatri Mantra is, how to practice it. Rather, I'll not tell how to practice it, but the meaning of Gayatri Mantra, and then how it relates to this sloka. So what does the three parts of God in immortal heaven mean? So is what we are going to cover in the next session. Okay, let us end with the prayer, our regular prayer. Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sarve Jana Sukhino Bhavantu. Samasta Sanmangalani Santu. Shubham Bhavatu. See you all in the next week's session.